Okay, so this is, I don't know really what we're going to call this, but it's a group of extension economists across the South, and we wanted to focus a little bit on some of the stuff that's happening on the food or meat side of the industry. Been hearing a lot of stuff about the livestock and live animal side, and so we've got a panel of extension economists from the South, and we're going to talk about a couple of different species and a couple of different cuts at the meat counter that you see and some changes we might be looking at. We've got Andrew Griffith, Charley Martinez, Josh Maples, David Anderson, and Jordan Shockley with us. And first, we're going to throw it to David to talk to us a little bit about the lamb side. So, David, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, being a well-trained economist, I can't do anything without a chart. So I'm going to share my screen for a second and show something on lamb. Let's see here. Is it working? You guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's just start with a good picture. I think we'll start with this. This is something this is a set of lamb loin chops that I cooked up at home here while we're sheltering in place a couple of weeks ago. And I'll tell you this is fresh American lamb loin chops picked up at my local grocery store. This happens to be the cut I sort of like the best. You know, most of the time we're going to see rack of lamb. We're going to see something like that. Sometimes you'll see some ground lamb. So, you know, we'll just leave that there for effect and talk about lamb a little bit. You know, obviously coronavirus has hit during, right in the leading up to Easter, which is a huge market for lamb in the U.S. It also, in all the shutdown of restaurants, particularly on the East Coast, more than 50% of our lamb goes through what we'd call traditional restaurant markets. And so really we got a lot of, devastation on the lamb side of things for a cut that, in the US, we don't eat a lot of. Per capita consumption's about 1.2 pounds per person per year. So not a huge industry compared to beef, pork, and chicken, but something where we certainly have producers, particularly across the West, across Texas, in the plains as well, and some small flocks throughout the East. We see a lot of these in, Virginia, Pennsylvania, going through markets around New Holland, Pennsylvania, which is a major hub for what we might call the non-traditional market, either going direct to restaurants, direct to consumers. So there's a lot of activity in this little smaller industry compared to the others. So I thought I'd just lead with that. We hit Easter, and so I'll just show some boxed lamb loin prices. This is the loin, just like that cut I showed. It's pretty easy to see the collapse in prices, particularly once we got past the Easter market. While production was way down, orders were collapsing. What did sell was selling at prices fairly close to where we were a year ago. But now that we're past the holiday, we certainly see some sharply lower prices in the marketplace. You'll see a lot of data about various meats and movement through grocery stores. Lamb has participated in that as well, trying to shift from restaurants to grocery stores, probably a little less successfully than some of the other cuts. But still, this is a product and a particular cut that's pretty important to a whole bunch of sheep ranchers across the U.S. And I thought I'd highlight this one a little bit. You can certainly see prices really starting to take effect now of lower prices in the complex. And if we looked at the whole cutout, we're certainly starting to see some lower prices. The cutout value being the value of those primal cuts put together in sort of a carcass value type idea. So with that, that's about the end of my slideshow, and I'm going to close with just that great picture again. I'm a pretty sorry photographer, so it's kind of off, and you can see my countertop, but look at the sear marks on those loin chops. I'll tell you what, they were darn good the other night. And that's it for lamb for me.
Does anybody have a quick question for David on the lamb market? I know one thing that I've had questions on the meat side before, David. Do you mind, for those who don't know, maybe that are watching, describing what a boxed lamb really is, or what that'll come up again in beef, but what does boxed lamb mean?
So really, that's the term for this cutout value. The cutout value is really representative of the value of the primal cuts put back together in their appropriate weights to make up a carcass. So it gives you an idea of what the carcass value is pulled together from actually the prices of those cuts that occur in the marketplace. So you don't see a cutout traded. You don't see that, but you do see the individual cuts that come off a carcass traded in the wholesale market. And then those cuts put back together in their appropriate weights creates that cutout value.
Does anybody else have any questions for David on the lamb market and what's kind of going on in lamb meat side? If not, thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see you at the next video.